What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Now Vegas down by as many as 14. Energized by the crowd. Cam Bayes, yes!
20 seconds, Nate. Hurry up, Nate. 16. Get them going, Nate. Let's go.
You're now in NHL City.
Won by Vegas, but the shot was blocked by Schwartz, or at least it glanced off him, and then going through the middle of the ice. Tarasenko's got Shen on his right.
You're listening to the MeanGene Show on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. And now, here's your host, MeanGene.
Good evening, Las Vegas. Welcome to the MeanGene Show here on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM Las Vegas. Hope you're having a great weekend. We have a great show planned for you tonight. NFL Draft took place on Thursday, April 29th. Who are the winners and losers of the first round of the draft? Joining me in the first half of the show will be a longtime friend of the MeanGene Show, Dustin Phifer from Fox Sports Southeast. Dustin covers the Carolina Panthers and will give his thoughts on the first round of the NFL Draft. And in the bottom hour of the show, I will be joined by WNBA superstar Angel McCoughtry from the Las Vegas Aces. Angel will be here to talk about the upcoming WNBA season, as well as the new additions to the Las Vegas Aces from the WNBA draft a few weeks ago. And last week, I briefly discussed the NBA standings and what teams are likely to make the NBA playoffs when they begin on May 22nd. One of those teams mentioned was the Philadelphia 76ers, who currently set second place in the Eastern Conference. Joining me this evening to talk about the 76ers will be Kevin Kinkead. Kevin covers the 76ers for the Cross and Broad. So as you can see, we have a jam-packed show this evening. The MeanGene Show is brought to you by the Las Vegas Aces Presidential Limousine by Kaptyn and the Westgate Resort Casino and Sportsbook. If you haven't heard, Las Vegas is open for business, so make sure you get here and enjoy it. It's May 1st. We have an exciting contest running this month. The MeanGene Show is giving away a free trip for two to Las Vegas. Now, this includes flight, hotel, and limo service. All you have to do is enter. And to enter, just follow me on Twitter at SportsKings. And on June 1st, we will send a direct message to the winner. Now, for more details on that contest, just go to my website, TheMeanGeneShow.com. All one word, TheMeanGeneShow.com. Okay, folks, let's get into this draft. There's a lot to cover, and I would not wait another minute to introduce my guest and friend from Fox Sports Southeast. We have done a lot of radio shows and podcast shows together, and as I mentioned earlier, he covers the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. The Panthers had the 8th overall pick in the first round of the NFL Draft on Thursday, and he's here to discuss that pick along with the winners and losers of the first round. Please welcome to the MeanGene Show, Dustin Phifer. What's up, Dustin?
Hey, what's going on, Gene? How are you?
Man, I am great. I am trying to get it together here, and the draft, I'm still a little bit puzzled by the first round, but of course, you and your team out there really made some breaking news on draft day with the trade with the Broncos. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and how you felt they did in the first round of the draft.
Yeah, it definitely was a lot of intrigue leading up to this first round. I think to the draft overall, not just with the Panthers, because there's so many different things that could happen. People want to trade up, trade down. So the Panthers did make a little trade. They stayed in the 8th spot right there, but they did make a trade with their partner right behind them, Denver, and they traded Teddy Bridgewater out to Denver, and they got a 6th-round pick back for him. So they were able to get something for him. A lot of people didn't know what they would get with him with the big salary he had. So at least they were able to get a pick back. They do have to eat some of his salary. It was a $20 million salary, but they converted it to a $10 million base salary this year. And the Panthers will have to pay $7 million of that, and the Broncos will pay $3 million of that. So, they signed Teddy Bridgewater last year to this 3-year deal, which was really like a 2-year deal. Mm-hmm. The experiment didn't really work. Teddy was okay, but didn't perform well late in games, and the Panthers are just ready to try to find a quarterback for the future. So they made a trade, a little risk for Sam Darnold, which, we can talk about as well. But, yes, they were able to move Teddy Bridgewater, get him over to Denver where they may need some QB help, and get a pick back for it. And so now they can continue building their franchise moving forward.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And then like you said, we're talking about Sam Darnold because you saw the puzzle beginning to move a little bit. And And as far as the pick itself, though, for the Panthers, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you what, Gene. I mean, this like I said, this was one of those drafts where normally I kind of have one or two players locked in where I think the Panthers might go, but since they traded for Darnold and didn't necessarily need that quarterback right away, they had all the options open to them in the world. They needed a left tackle. They could still obviously maybe go quarterback to bring somebody in to compete with Darnold. They needed a cornerback. They needed secondary, which he ended up going with. So overall, I really wanted Sewell from Oregon, but of course he went one pick right before the Panthers, and I think if he would have fell there, that's who they would have taken. They hadn't had a left tackle for years that has been stable, so they need a guy to anchor that left tackle and protect their quarterback. But since he went, they decided that they wanted to bolster up their corner spot, and they took J.C. Horn. Who, to me, at first I was thinking, okay, well, since Sewell's gone, maybe trade back and maybe still try to get a corner or somebody. But they liked Horn, and they decided to go with their guy there. And he had, I think, probably the best coverage season in the SEC last year, which is probably one of the best football conferences, as we know. So he is projected to be a number one corner, lockdown guy, a big guy. So they really like what they had there. They got Dante Jackson as a starting corner, who they drafted a few years ago. He gets banged up a lot, and he's a free agent after this season. So they needed to bring somebody in to try to lock up that corner spot. So that's what they went with overall. I was a little surprised by the pick that early because I thought maybe they could have traded back. But if you look at the player itself, J.C. Horn, obviously son of former Saints receiver Joe Horn, they definitely got a guy who has the pedigree and can be a lockdown corner in this league.
Absolutely. Folks, once again, we're talking with Dustin Phifer from Fox Sports Southeast here on the MeanGene Show, KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas. And you're right. I mean, hey, his father played in the NFL, and what a player he was. And just to have that sort of mentorship, it's got to help. But, and his name had been mentioned, and he was not the only former son of a former NFL player, and was Patrick Surtain also. The second was drafted. So what do you think about that pick?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised. Once we got to 8 there and Justin Fields was still there at 8, I actually thought there was a chance that the Panthers might take Fields. They really liked him, and that was their number one quarterback that they liked outside of those top two guys. So I thought there was a chance maybe they'd take him, and then when they didn't take him, I thought the Broncos for sure would take Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And they went with the corner as well, and Surtain, and he's another good corner. So I know Dallas, they probably were upset about that because they were looking at one of those two corners.
Yes, they were.
And ended up having a trade back, but I got to give Dallas credit as much as I'm not a fan, Gene. They did a good job of trading back and getting Micah Parsons, who I think is one of the better defenders in his draft. So yeah, Surtain goes. You got two guys like you said that's got the pedigree there, and they should be good corners in this league. So it was definitely like a weird first round. And if you talk about the Panthers, Matt Rule in these last two drafts, they have pretty much drafted all defense. So they are really trying to get this defense built up. And, they added some free agents as well. So I really think that this defense is going to be heading in the right direction going into next year.
And what do you think about the 49ers? Because, everyone had said, hey, depending on what the San Francisco 49ers did in this draft, it would alter it. And it did. I mean, with picking Trey Lance, how do you think that's going to work out for them?
Yeah, it's definitely a huge risk when you trade that high up to get to number 3 and you give up all of that draft capital and all of those assets. You need to make sure you hit a home run. And obviously, all the talk was, well, they traded up to get Mac Jones, but then Trey Lance was closing the gap. So we don't know what with the draft, we don't know what's smoke screens and what's not. But they decided to go with Trey Lance, and I think the upside for this guy is superstar talent. I mean, he's that good. But again, we're talking about a guy who played at a lower college, same college as Carson Wentz. Now we're seeing some of the struggles that he's having. And we're also talking about a guy who didn't play a college football season last year. So he doesn't have all that experience that some of those other guys have. So they're definitely going with that upside pick where they think down the road he's going to be really good. So I think it's one of those ones where it's interesting what they do with Jimmy G now. Obviously somebody would maybe want to trade for him, but at the same time, you might need Jimmy G there for a year to help mentor this guy because he may not be ready day one. He may be that potential down the road. But I think that's the better pick over Mac Jones. If you're going to go up to number 3 and you're going to take a guy, you're looking for the home run guy. And could Mac Jones be good? Yes, he could be good, but we're looking for elite level at number 3. So I think San Francisco did the right thing taking Trey Lance.
And there's so many, similarities there, and people are talking about the Patriots and Mac Jones, and they are comparing him to a Tom Brady who came in, inexperienced, but just his personality and just how he's a pocket type guy. And how do you think the Patriots did with picking up Mac Jones?
Well, first, can we just write it in the rules that we should probably could never compare any player to Tom Brady, regardless of how their skill sets match up, how their body types match up, athletic types. Let's just leave that out. That's just not fair to Mac Jones. So let's start there.
But wait a minute, Dustin, and if you notice now, and I don't want to knock on another, network's coverage of the draft, which, ESPN does a hell of a job and gives us a ton of information. But, come on, the comparisons. This Travis Etienne was being compared to Alvin Kamara, and I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, you're just setting these guys up, and fans. Fans know a lot about the game, but they're also going to take and run with what these analysts and former players say. So let's not put that on these guys when they're just now trying to make their name in the league. So.
It's amazing they do this, and like you said, fans would get in your face and say, "You're no Alvin Kamara."
Exactly. So the one thing I will say about Mac Jones, the guy, he does have the pedigree being in Alabama. He obviously had a lot of weapons, a good offensive line around him, but he's very accurate. He's very smart, can make the right reads, make some good throws. And I got to say this, I didn't think Mac Jones was a really good pick at 3 because I think that's too high for him. But Bill Belichick did it again. Everybody said that he was going to have to trade up to get a quarterback. And what did he do? He played the poker game.
Yeah.
He knew what was going on, and he sat right there in a spot at 15, and the guy fell right to him. So,
no, go ahead.
It's a perfect situation for Mac Jones. Think about this. The one comparison that the media did make that is really good is that he leaves Alabama and Nick Saban, who, if you want to compare coaches, Saban and Belichick are very similar. They're very no nonsense, straight to the point. And now he's already had that at Alabama, and now he goes right there to the Patriots and Bill Belichick. So it's a great spot for him. Last year, you may not say that because the Patriots didn't have any weapons. Well, what did they do? They go out and spend all this money in offseason. They get 2 starting tight ends. They bring in some more free agents as well. So Belichick's building that roster back up, and this will be a good spot. And Mac Jones, with him having that experience, he may be able to start day one, but that'll be an interesting competition with him and Cam Newton because they're also bringing Cam back as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I get a call last night from a long-time listener and Terry Hopkins, and he says, well, MeanGene, I see what the Patriots are doing, and I think this is a perfect scenario and having a Mac Jones, and now he feels that Cam Newton will probably get, the start, and depending on wins and losses, I think he set the number at 8, maybe either 8 wins or 8 losses or however this worked. And if Cam is on the negative side or positive side of that, will decide whether we're going to see Mac Jones starting maybe the second half of the season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely can see something like that happening. And Bill Belichick's already said last night after his pick that Cam Newton's their quarterback. So I definitely see Cam starting the season. And, Cam did not have a great year last year, but we do have to remember that last year was a COVID offseason. He was going to a new team. They didn't have the same offseason workouts that they had to get to know those guys and get used to the team. Then Cam was playing well the first few weeks of the season, and he gets COVID. So Cam had a lot that he did have to deal with last year. So let's see if he has a full off season. He's fully healthy. He's with the same team, the same coaches, and is learning all their stuff. Then maybe he can really rebound this year. And again, we just said it. He's got more weapons now. And don't forget, not just on the offense. Think about all the players that opted out for the Patriots on defense last year that were all pros. Those guys are coming back. So this roster is going to look completely different. And so Belichick has done a good job of getting this thing right back on track. I know everybody says it was all Tom Brady. Look what happened. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. It wasn't Bill Belichick. But I'm not going to count out what I consider the greatest coach of all time just yet. He's got this roster built back up. He's got Cam to go for another year, and now he's even got possibly a quarterback of the future. So I like what they're doing in New England, and they should be in a good spot heading into this year. But that's a tough division in the AFC East now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, with Buffalo and Miami, right there, and who knows? I mean, the Jets have always been in the cellar, but things could be looking up for the Jets as well. So, and lastly, Dustin, we have to talk about the breaking news of Aaron Rodgers and how that thing came about. And, of course, now none of us have heard him say this from his mouth. These are all reports and of things that he have mentioned to someone. But anyway, what's going on with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'll tell you what, Gene, this is just, this is a pretty crazy story, but overall you can kind of tell, we cover all sports and all leagues, and you can kind of tell that the NFL, as far as player control, is starting to turn into the NBA a little bit, where these guys want to make the decision if they're not happy and they want to go somewhere else. You used to not see that in the NFL. The teams had all the control, but these guys are starting to take control. And I'll tell you what, I go back and forth on this situation, Gene, and I'm curious to get your thoughts as well, because a part of me says, hey, Aaron, you've been in Green Bay. Y'all have been really good. Yes, y'all only won one Super Bowl, which is pretty underachieving when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, every year you're right there near the NFC Championship. You're winning games. You're the Green Bay Packers. But on the flip side of it, I think to myself, if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm one of the best quarterbacks in the league, probably of all time, and they trade up a year ago to get a quarterback in the first round, they didn't sit there. They traded up to get a quarterback, knowing that I'm still there. Obviously, yes, I'm going to be upset by that. And it just seems like ever since that happened, and they didn't let him know that, hey, we're going to take a quarterback. Ever since that's happened, the relationship has been fractured. So I just don't see it rebounding. And we have to point it out that Aaron Rodgers is a different dude. He's not, he's different when it goes about relationships and how he handles things. And he's not really going to put up with that type of stuff. So I think it's kind of already been broken. Could I see him maybe playing one more year this year and then maybe going after next year possibly? But if he really wants to push the issue, then yeah, he could get out of there. I just don't see how this relationship can be mended. It sounds like they've already flew out there to California to meet him, and it still didn't go well. And they made a good point this morning on one of the shows. The Green Bay Packers don't have that one guy who is the owner or one person that can go out there and say, hey, let's fix this, because they're owned by the fans.
Right.
So really you're just dealing with the general managers and the coaches. And if he don't have that relationship, it's not going to be fixed.
You're absolutely right. And then to even say that, okay, well, these are the teams that I'm interested in. One was the Broncos, one was the Las Vegas Raiders, and neither one of those teams bid on that because everyone was waiting to see, okay, something's going to go down with the Raiders, something's going to go down with the Broncos, and they went the opposite way, which has called his bluff, so to speak. So it's really going to be interesting to see. And then on top of that, Dustin, they didn't even draft a wide receiver in the first round. They got a cornerback.
Yeah, they went defense again, and I think that's some of the stuff that frustrates Aaron Rodgers, because people look at it and they say, oh, well, you do have Devontae Adams and you do have Aaron Jones, but let's not remember, yes, those are very good players, but let's not remember that Aaron's who makes this ship go. So,
right.
I mean, without him, are those guys going to be putting up those type of numbers? Probably not. And then, like you said, you don't draft a receiver for him last year. You draft a quarterback, and then you draft a quarterback. They just don't give him that help. And I think that's all he's asking for is, hey, listen, I'm not trying to sound, arrogant, but I'm the franchise guy. Help me out here and let's try to win a Super Bowl. And they just keep kind of going. They're just not on the same page. And so the longer that goes, I don't see how you correct it. And again, it's the same thing with this kind of Deshaun Watson situation. Obviously, the Houston Texans dug in and said they weren't going to trade him, and the Packers could do the same thing, and you could have a standoff. But the longer you had a standoff, the worse it just makes it for your franchise. So you really got some decisions to make. Hey, do we just go ahead and call it and let him go somewhere else? And then also, I say this all the time, Gene, the Tom Brady thing, what he did with Tampa Bay in year one, only amplifies this. Aaron Rodgers sees, hey, look, Tom Brady was with a team for 20 years who won multiple Super Bowls. And then he left there. Obviously, he was a free agent, so it's a little different. But he left there and went to a different team. And in year one, they won the Super Bowl. So if he's sitting here saying, hey, we're good, but we're not making it over the hump, then maybe I can go to a different team, and in year one we can go to the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, I don't blame them for thinking that way, because what did the Buccaneers do? They built around. I mean, well, hey, look, they already had two of the best receivers in the league there, and they added more pieces. I mean, it just, I tell you, it worked out. You know, I can't remember the last time an MVP has been so disrespected. You know.
No, I agree. And you just made a perfect point. Tom Brady went to Tampa, and yes, they already had weapons, but what did they do? Anything that Tom Brady wanted, they made happen. He wanted Antonio Brown, they made it happen. He wanted Leonard Fournette, they made it happen. Yeah. So if Aaron Rodgers goes to Green Bay and says, hey, I want these things, and they're not really, kind of working with him on that, then you can see why he'd be upset, because it's working for other people around the league.
It's always a pleasure to have you here on the show, and I can't wait to have you back on. And I know for a fact when you do come back on, we're going to be talking Carolina. The Charlotte Hornets and their NBA playoff run, which the playoff starts on Saturday, May 22nd. So, Dustin, man, it is great having you on, and we hope to have you again.
Hey, looking forward to it, Gene. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, Dustin Phifer, Fox Sports Southeast here on the MeanGene Show. So there you go. The Carolina Panthers select J.C. Horn with the 8th pick overall in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft, folks. Dustin Phifer giving us that news here on the MeanGene Show. So let's go ahead and take a look also at because Dustin made some pretty good points there. I mean, we talked about a few things, mainly the comparisons that networks and you name it make when it comes to drafting players. So you see this player is compared to that player, and Mac Jones being compared to Tom Brady, which is just totally unrealistic. Or even with the Denver Broncos pick, picking Patrick Surtain and thinking that, okay, well, he's going to be, like his father, Patrick Surtain, who played in the NFL. I mean, maybe not. I mean, do they have somewhat of an advantage having fathers, played in the NFL? I would say yes. Definitely when it comes to, J.C. Horn. His father was a wide receiver, but J.C. Horn is a cornerback. So, and Patrick Surtain, you might have some similarities there, but I mean, we just need to stop with that. And I agree with Dustin. We just need to stop. I mean, to even set Mac Jones up to be the next Tom Brady is totally ridiculous. So definitely agree with that. Let's go ahead and look at the AFC West, because we talked about this last week in great detail as far as, what the needs were for those teams going into this coming up 2021 season. And we'll go ahead and just kind of look at it here. The Chiefs certainly didn't have a lot of options there in the number one pick. Actually, they didn't have a number one pick at all, because they sent that over to the Baltimore Ravens last week as part of a trade that brought them offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr., something that they really needed to protect Patrick Mahomes, and that's exactly what they did. So no pick by the Chiefs, but in the end, I mean, do you still have the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos looking up at the Chiefs? That answer would be yes. Everyone is shaking their head at the pick of the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, how many times will the Raiders continue to stun people when it comes to drafting in the first round of the NFL draft? Now, let me tell you who they selected in case you were out of commission and didn't know what was going on. So the Raiders selected Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. Alabama has sent 6 players in the first round of the NFL draft. That is a major accomplishment. But we're not saying that Alex Leatherwood is a bad player. We're probably saying and shaking our head that, okay, he's probably not a first round draft pick. Okay, so, do they need an offensive tackle? Yes, I think that's good. And, in the long run, will this pick pay off? Probably yes. But in the short term, getting him on the football field is going to be a challenge and a task, because, I mean, you're just not going to get the value of that pick right now. You're just not going to see it. So, and then when you look at the Broncos picking Patrick Surtain, well, yeah, certainly, you have a good cornerback there. You need to shore up that defense. Probably not a bad pick. The quarterback situation in Denver may or may not have gotten better. That depends on what you think about Teddy Bridgewater and and what he's going to be able to give this team, not to mention the money that's coming over with Bridgewater that the Broncos decided they would take on. So you're going to see a quarterback competition between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, which, should be quite interesting because, that's going to definitely, give a sense of urgency to Drew Lock. When you look at the Chargers, the Chargers got it right. We talked about it last week, how the Chargers needed someone to protect Justin Herbert, and they did it. He was the offensive rookie of the year last year. So, hey, what do? They went and got Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, offensive tackle, with the 13th pick. You can't go wrong with that. I think they did a pretty good job in making that happen. And then, of course, like we mentioned with the Raiders pulling off the biggest surprise so far in the first round, I would say what we are going to do now is end this first segment. And when we come back, folks, stick around because we're going to have WNBA superstar Angel McCoughtry. Should be quite interesting. So once again, you're listening to the MeanGene Show here on 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Now Vegas down by as many as 14. Energized by the crowd. Cam Bayes. Yes!
20 seconds, Nate. Hurry up, Nate. 16. Get them going, Nate. Let's go.
You're now in NHL City.
Won by Vegas, but the shot was blocked by Schwartz, or at least it glanced off him, and then going through the middle of the ice. Tarasenko's got Shen on his right.
Once again, you're listening to the MeanGene Show on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
My next guest has accomplished so much in her 12 seasons in the WNBA. Even before entering the WNBA, she was an exceptional player at the University of Louisville, where she led the Big East Conference in scoring, rebounding, and steals. She was also named the Big East Player of the Year. After college, she was selected the first overall pick by the Atlanta Dream in the 2009 WNBA draft. It didn't stop there, folks. She went on to win 2 gold medals with the U.S. national basketball team, WNBA Rookie of the Year. She's a 5-time WNBA All-Star, 2-time WNBA scoring champion, 7-time WNBA All-Defensive First Team. Last year, her first year with the Las Vegas Aces, she led the Aces to their first WNBA Finals. Please welcome to the show WNBA Las Vegas Aces superstar, Angel McCoughtry. Hi, Angel.
Hey, how you doing?
I am doing great, and I want you to know that you've had such an awesome career that I struggled with the introduction because I just didn't want to shortchange you on all of your accomplishments.
Oh, no, you did pretty good. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming season. The 2021 WNBA season gets underway Thursday, May 13th. I think the Aces' first game is on May 15th against the Seattle Storm, the team that defeated you guys in the finals. So what are the Aces doing to prepare for what will hopefully be another run at the WNBA Finals?
Yeah, I think, Dan and Bill, they've done a great job putting the team together. I think we have a great team to do what we came to do. It's just all about building the chemistry now and getting to know each other. But the front office has done such a great job with this franchise.
Absolutely. And speaking of great job, the draft was back on April 15th, and I know the Aces had the 12th, 14th, and 36th pick. I think you guys chose Ileana Rupert, Destiny Slocum, and Kiana Jeter in that order. So how will these ladies be able to help the team?
Yeah, you know what? They're young, and they've done some great jobs for their teams in college, and we're just looking for them to bring a lot of energy, bring that youth, and I see them in the gym all the time. So it's good to see that they're hungry and they want to learn and be in there. So I'm really excited to play with these young ladies.
Absolutely. Now, and what role will you have, if any, in the development of these young ladies?
Oh, absolutely. I always tell every rookie that comes in every year, I'm your vet. I'm here. If you need to vent and talk, because I know how it is. It's an adjustment. You're in a new city. You're on your own. You don't know many people, so you just have to adjust a little bit. You're on another level. So I just try to show them that I'm here. If they need anybody, let's go have lunch. Let's hang out. You got to make it fun too. So make it fun for the rookies and just show them that they're in good hands. And, of course, helping them on the court, any questions they have, or, and I always try to extend my leadership, things that I've learned while playing for the rookies.
Absolutely. Folks, once again, we're talking with Angel McCoughtry from the WNBA Las Vegas here on the MeanGene Show, KDWN, 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas. So you mentioned Bill, your coach. So I have to ask, okay, what is it like playing for Bill Laimbeer?
You know what? I love it. Bill has been around a long time. He has championship rings, so he knows what it takes to get there.
Were you aware of his playing days in the NBA?
Absolutely. I actually love the way he played. I love the toughness that they had back then. I think some of that is lacking in today's NBA, but to come from to play in that era, so that was just a tough era to play in. So championships in that era, that's pretty good.
Absolutely, Angel. And I want to ask you also, have you given any thought? Now looking at you and watching you play, it looks like you got another 5 or 10 years left in you, but I have to ask, what have you given any thought to what you might do after your playing career?
I create things. I create ideas. I create TV shows. I create books. I'm just a creator. I want to create life-changing things in society. So I just a creator after basketball.
Okay, that's fine. That sounds pretty good. And lastly, this season marks the 25th year of the WNBA, and how does it feel knowing you personally have played a significant role in the success of this league?
It's amazing, just even now today, even at the University of Louisville, I always have fans tell me, "Wow, you paved the way for Louisville women," and I'm like, "Wow!" Like just to think to be a part of something like that and to help pave the WNBA, this new WNBA where women are getting paid more. There's more endorsements coming back. And just, I want to be able to see these young rookies, they're going to be able to get $1 million contracts one day. So to be a part of the voice to help youngsters be able to get their first $1 million contract, I'm so proud of that, and to be able to have played with Diana Taurasi. A lot of these young girls won't. To play with a Sue Bird, to play with Lisa Leslie, Tina Thompson, the greats of the greats. I'm very honored because a lot of these girls, I won't get to play with them. Sylvia Fowles will be gone soon. Candace Parker will be gone soon. I will. Diana Taurasi. It's just, it won't even seem the same. So I'm glad that I got to play with a lot of legends.
Absolutely, Angel. And I want to thank you for being a guest here on the MeanGene Show. I wish you nothing but continued success and can't wait to see you in the Aces this season. And yes. I will introduce myself. So I'm not as mean as my name is, okay? It's just MeanGene.
I can't wait.
All right, folks. WNBA and Las Vegas Aces star Angel McCoughtry here on the MeanGene Show, KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas. All right, Angel McCoughtry, WNBA superstar, joining us here on the MeanGene Show, 101.5 FM, 720 AM. And, I tell you what, it's got to be exciting, especially if you're an Aces fan, because last year this team made the WNBA Finals. They lose to the Seattle Storm, who won the championship, but they opened up on May 15th against that same team. So it's going to be exciting. And not only does Angel come back, but, hey, how about the 3 rookies that will be joining that team? And the fact that, she said, hey, those ladies are in the gym, they're getting ready, exciting, and more importantly, to have a mentor in Angel who will definitely be there to lead them on. So it's going to be interesting to see how things will look for the Las Vegas Aces. So guess what we're going to do, folks? We're going to go from the WNBA to the NBA. NBA, Eastern Conference and Western Conference are in the final days of the regular season. I believe somewhere between 8 and 9 games remaining. The NBA playoffs are scheduled to start May 22nd. And we're still looking at that 8th spot in both of those conferences because, as we mentioned last week on the show, there's a play-in tournament, which is quite interesting and exciting. And we're going to have to talk to Kevin Kinkead coming up here and see what he thinks about that. But nevertheless, the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets have been kind of going back and forth as far as first place in the Eastern Conference, and I believe where we stand right now is that the Brooklyn Nets are in that first spot there, winners of 4 in a row, where the 76ers had a little slide, but they are winners of 2 in a row. So interesting. And over in the Western Conference, as things continue to stay where they are as far as first and second place. I mean, I know the Utah Jazz is holding on to that 1-game lead over in the Western Conference, where the Phoenix Suns are right there, and that's going to be interesting to see. Suns have won 7 of the last 10 games. Utah has won 6 of their last 10 games, but a couple of more games to be played there, and before we get to the playoffs. My next guest covers the Philadelphia 76ers for the Cross and Broad. He's been covering Philadelphia sports since 2009. He also spent 7 years in the CBS 3 sports department in Philadelphia. Please welcome to the MeanGene Show, Kevin Kinkead. How's it going, Kevin?
It's great. I'm doing well. Everybody out here is doing well. You know, the Eagles actually got their first-round draft pick right, so everybody's happy. And it's a rare day in the Delaware Valley.
I can imagine, man, that, teaming up, the hot wide receiver with a Heisman Trophy. You got a Heisman Trophy winner, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, look, you simplify it. You don't overthink things, and you just go out and draft the Heisman Trophy winner. It's hard to find any complaints about that, right?
Absolutely. But, hey, man, today I want to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and the rest of the schedule. And right now, I know you guys set second place in the Eastern Conference playoff run here, and a couple of win streaks going here, with a few games remaining on the schedule. And just where do you think things are going to end up with the 76ers? Are they going to be above Brooklyn, or are they going to stay right there where they are?
You know, if the schedule plays out the way we all think it is, they are in a really good spot to claim, the top seed in the Eastern Conference. They actually have one of the easiest. It may actually be statistically the easiest remaining schedule. Not a lot of playoff teams on there. They've played most of their road games already. They just got through a tough stretch where they had to go Golden State, Phoenix, Brooklyn, 2 games in Milwaukee back-to-back because of the funky COVID schedule kind of turning out the way it did. But they're getting healthy now. Joel Embiid is playing at an MVP level. Ben Simmons is back in the fold. Tobias Harris is back in the fold. Things are kind of coalescing, if you will, and they're landing the plane in time for the playoffs, which is really something they've had trouble doing over the last couple of years. So things look good on paper.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, looking at the schedule, I know you guys at Houston, I mean, which is dead last over there in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
Detroit, I think, one of and I can't wait till this game take place on Friday, May 7th. You guys got a home game against the New Orleans Pelicans, who are currently outside looking in. But overall, how do you feel Doc Rivers has done at the helm over there in Philly?
He's done a great job. And it's interesting because, excuse me, he hasn't really come in and done anything crazy. They're not running anything amazing on offense. There are a lot of post-ups through Joel Embiid, a lot of post-ups with Ben Simmons, putting Tobias Harris into pick and roll. But, really they just simplified it, right? I mean, this was a motion offense under Brett Brown. There was a lot of moving parts, and they were trying to figure out what to do with Ben Simmons as a non-shooter. And Doc Rivers really came in, and I think these guys just – this is nothing profound that I'm going to say here, but they just kind of, responded to him. He's a veteran coach with a pedigree and a ring. Mm-hmm. And, he come in with that kind of respect and that kind of magnetism. It was something that they were just glued to, so he's got them individually being better at what they were previously. They're not doing anything crazy from a technical X's and O's standpoint, but you don't really have to, if you just play your guys to their strengths and keep it simple and don't try to overcomplicate things. Then you're going to have success. And I think that's a big part of it was him just getting these guys individually to buy in and to kick it from third gear to fourth gear and fifth gear. Absolutely.
Folks, once again, we're talking with Kevin Kinkead from the Cross and Broad. He covers the Philadelphia 76ers here on the MeanGene Show, KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM. I want to talk a little bit more about Joel Embiid because I'm going to admit now I'm one of those sit on the couch and criticize a player And I have, over the years, criticized him because I just didn't think he was just really into basketball. I just, at times, he, seemed like he was lazy. But this year, what has changed? I mean, this guy is, he's in for the MVP race. Am I right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I'll give you kind of an out of the box answer here. He's 27 years old now, and he's a recent father.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think some of the times in the past with him, it was these up and down roller coaster emotional kind of things where he'd play up with the emotion of the crowd, and then the valleys would coincide with the peaks, and he would seem to be on this emotional roller coaster. But there's something clicked with him where he sort of has this new maturity now, where he's just able to focus game in and game out, be a consistent performer, eat the right things, take care of his body. We're not getting the weight fluctuations. The load management situation has sort of been sorted out with him. That's something they've been trying to navigate over the years. But you're just seeing a guy who, quite frankly, is putting in one of the best individual seasons in Philadelphia sports history ever. He's getting to the foul line at a rate that only Wilt Chamberlain was ever able to match.
Wow.
In a different kind of NBA, mind you. But some of the stuff he's doing is amazing for a 7-footer. To see him doing Dirk Nowitzki back foot, baseline fadeaway jumpers and Hakeem Olajuwon dream shakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The things that he's doing, honestly, are things that you should not be able to do for that height and weight. He's playing more like a combo forward, and he's a 7'2" center.
That is absolutely right, man. And it's I tell you what, it's a beauty to see when he does that, and I like it. And I also want to mention, Kevin, that you guys, the 76ers don't have to worry about this play-in tournament, unlike some teams, Lakers maybe. But anyway, I think the 76ers are going to be solid. But let me get your thoughts on this play-in tournament. This was something that they did last year in the bubble, which we thought, or at least I thought, it was a one-time thing only. I don't know how they approved this moving forward here now that teams are playing in their own arenas. But what are your thoughts on this play-in tournament that the NBA is doing?
I hate it. I absolutely detest it. No, honestly, because listen, if you're going to do this play-in tournament, then what's the point of the regular season in the first place? I would rather see them address some of the outstanding issues with the regular season right now instead of looking at these little quirky tweaks to the end of the regular season. Right, we've had a ton of games this year, and I know the COVID situation is what it is. A lot of protocol issues meant that early in the season the Sixers had 4 wins against the Heat and the Celtics, where Jimmy Butler didn't play and Jason Tatum didn't play and whatnot. But then the Sixers also had a lot of losses where it's like, well, Embiid's out on the second night of a back-to-back, or Simmons is out or something like that. And I would just like to see them make it so that we're getting more meaningful primetime marquee games between full-strength squads in the regular season. And then if you have meaningful regular season games, then you don't need a play-in game, because the team that comes in, the team that places 8th in their conference will have earned it, through regular season games that actually means something, So I would just rather the regular season's becoming a little bit of an extended preseason, and I would like to see them, correct that issue first. You know what, Kevin, and I agree with you too. I hate it, but if you look at the situation now over in the East, you got the Hornets who are, hey, they're hanging in there by a thread, losing LaMelo Ball. But you also have a team like the Wizards who, they have a pretty good team on the court. I think they're in that 10th seed now, and they actually have a chance. And I think from a fan perspective, you might want to see the Wizards in that 8th seed than the Hornets. Would you agree? Yeah, it's true. There is individual, I think if you're looking at the idea of mutual exclusivity, there is intrigue with a team getting hot later in the season and giving them a chance to slide in. It's just like in college basketball, if Syracuse wins a bunch of games, in February and then does well in the conference tournament, and then they slide into to March Madness or whatever. You'd say they're playing really well right now. They're probably one of the better teams in the country, so you want to see them in the tournament. Mm-hmm. So I get that for sure. Yeah, I think you can. I still think the bigger issue overall is just making the regular season more meaningful. And look, if they got to cut down look, they'll never do it because of money purposes, right? But if you went from like 82 or whatever down to 70 and just cut down on the amount of back-to-backs that you're asking these guys to play, you're going to have more primetime games where it's going to be 5 superstars against 5 superstars and nobody's going to be out. So to me, I would just focus on that,
I agree. I hear you, and that makes perfect sense there. So, and looking at the 76ers going into the postseason here, I mean, what are your expectations?
It's got to be Eastern Conference Finals or bust, because they've gotten to the second round twice now and haven't been able to get over the hump. The intriguing thing, I think, is I really, really, really want to see a Brooklyn matchup. Because we didn't, none of the Sixers games against the Nets this year, they didn't get the big three at all. That we did not get to see full strength Sixers versus full strength Nets. And it's a dream matchup for basketball nerds because it's just who are you going to match up against their three, And then you turn around and ask them, who do you have to guard Joel Embiid, right? So it's going to be like a master class in coaching and X's and O's and, how you're going to, maximize your rotation to account for one of Durant or Kyrie or Hart all being on, at least one of those guys being on the floor at the same time. It's really going to be, high level, high IQ, elite basketball. And I think the fans deserve that because we didn't get to see it this year.
I agree with that. Hey, folks, Kevin Kinkead of the Cross and Broad out of Philadelphia covers the Philadelphia 76ers. Hey, Kevin, we got to get you back on. I know things are about to get really busy out there for you, but hopefully if we're fortunate and lucky, we can get you back on at some point in time during the NBA playoffs.
Absolutely. Just give me a shout whenever, all right?
All right, folks. Once again, Kevin Kinkead joining us here on the MeanGene Show. I certainly agree with Kevin on the improvement of Joel Embiid because I tell you, I mean, I had to be up front with him. I just didn't think over the years this guy has just played, like a daisy of basketball and, struggled with the weight, even though you could never ask him about that. He shunned the media as far as answering questions about, whether or not he was in great physical shape. But, hey, I mean, Kevin, just like everyone else, is pretty much stunned on the turnaround. Something clicked for Joel Embiid, and the fact that it did click, I mean, just the entire personality and on the court, I mean, he's killing it, and he could well be the MVP of the league. So give it up to Doc Rivers and his leadership. I mean, who else could go in there and just really get players to play? If you talk to players around the league, Doc Rivers is one of the most well-respected coaches in the league. The Celtics fans can attest to that. So could the Clippers, and it was just, so unfortunate that he was not able to, to really get the Clippers over the hump. Now, I'm a Lakers fan, so I didn't necessarily want to see him get the Clippers over the hump. But, I mean, hey, we all anticipated Doc Rivers and the Clippers going up against the Lakers and seeing who really was the true king of the city, which I think most folks would agree that the Lakers are the king of the city. But and then things just really happened for the Lakers that they were not matched up against the Clippers in last year's playoffs, which just, who knows? I mean, that could be a different story this year. Of course, Doc Rivers is not there this year, but hey, what he's doing with the Philadelphia 76ers and that lineup, having the Tobias Harris there certainly has to help as far as, someone knowing his style and just you are seeing the mentorship, just the coaching style that Doc Rivers does and how he's able to get, the most out of his players, which is quite incredible. I don't know if anyone can do it better than Doc Rivers. So it's going to be interesting to see. 76ers have a fairly easy schedule, like Kevin said there, so they don't really, it's all about, I haven't really looked at Brooklyn's schedule, but, those two teams right now are 1 and 2 in the Eastern Conference. I don't see anyone that's going to, there's just no threat right now that anyone is going to catch up with the Brooklyn Nets or the 76ers. Or even the Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are 4.5, 5 games behind. I don't think that's going to happen. There's only 8, 9, maybe 10 games left. I don't think it's 10, but maybe 8 or 9 games left in the regular season. So, And it's going to be interesting to see who those teams play, because as we talked about the play-in tournament, which it didn't surprise me that Kevin is no fan of the play-in tournament. It does sucks. I mean, we talked about right now. If you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, there you're probably saying, well, what the hell? I mean, we're playing good, even though they lost LaMelo Ball, who might come back. I mean, for them to even just be in that spot is pretty amazing. So you got to understand that, hey, this play-in tournament really does suck. And the fact that, but at the same time, I tried to make the point that, hey, who do you really want to see in the Eastern Conference playoffs? Do you want to see the Washington Wizards, or do you want to see the Charlotte Hornets? Now, Dustin Phifer would say, hey, MeanGene, come on now. We want to see the Charlotte Hornets. And hey, before LaMelo Ball got hurt, I mean, this kid was putting up exciting numbers, and it still remains to see if he's going to be the Rookie of the Year. But at the same time, things happen, But part of me wants to see the Charlotte Hornets and LaMelo Ball. I said Bell. Okay, I meant Ball. Okay, come back and do what he needs to do to get his team in the playoffs. So, I mean, they're still going to have a chance unless they just really completely drop out and won't even be in contention. So if you look at the 11th seed over there, it's the Chicago Bulls. And right now, between the Hornets and the Bulls, there are probably 4 games. So I don't know. I don't think the Hornets are going to have to worry about anything. But nevertheless, 76ers, who they're going to play is the big question. So that's what we're waiting on. So, hey, folks, I hope you have enjoyed the show. We had a wonderful show. I want to thank all of my guests, Dustin Phifer, Fox Sports Southeast over in Charlotte, North Carolina. Want to thank Angel McCoughtry from the WNBA, Las Vegas Aces, for coming on, and Kevin Kinkead from the Crossing Broad, covering the 76ers. It's been a great show. Don't forget to go to the website, MeanGeneShow.com, and get in on the contest, get in on the chance to win a free trip to Las Vegas, because it's definitely going to happen. It's going to go down, and I want you to be part of it. I want you to follow me on Twitter @SportsKings, and we'll come back here next week with Mr. Picks, and we'll do this all again, because the season, WNBA season, the NBA season, this is an exciting time. You got the the NFL draft. Once again, you are listening to the MeanGene Show. We'll see you next week.